All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another one, y'all. All right, y'all, back with another little discussion here. Haven't had a chance to really go live like I wanted to, but just been busy this week, busy taking care of business. But I just been, checking out some articles here and there and, listening to some of y'all's videos. And I know this is a big topic right now. This is kind of a discussion that's been going on right now ever since Weili went in there and pretty much dominated Tatiana Suarez, right? And yeah, this is kind of the argument that's been going on right now. It's a real quick question, that I want to answer from my side, my thoughts. Who is the number one pound for pound women's fighter in WMMA today? And it's between Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili, right? First off, for me, when I look at pound for pound, you have to look at the body of work, the accomplishments, and kind of look at the skill set across the board and see how they match up between other weight classes, as far as how their skills would match up against other fighters, as well as going to other weights. All right. I use the same standard that I use when it comes to boxing. I use the same standard when it comes to boxing because that's what it is. Who's the best pound for pound fighter in the world, right? Or who's the best pound for pound fighter in each division, or however you want to look at it. Usually across the board, like in the world. That's what they're talking about. And for me, between Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili, I have to say the number one pound for pound currently today is still Valentina Shevchenko. All right. And before y'all start arguing and get mad, look, it's really close. It really is because, Zhang Weili is catching up. I do have Zhang Weili at number 2 or 3. I think it kind of teeters between her and Chris Cyborg. I have to look at Chris Cyborg as well, because I look at her body of work, her accomplishments as well. She's earned her 5th organization belt, against Larissa Pacheco. But at the same time, I have to look at who else is on the resume, what they stood, how well they stood up to other fighters, what they were bringing to the table. Like Larissa Pacheco, of course, she was the champion. She was knocking a lot of people out, but she did lose to Kayla Harrison twice. It took her a 3rd time to beat Kayla Harrison, right? But at the same time, that is still a good win. And again, Chris Cyborg, the way she dominated so many people, that still puts her up there in the top 5 somewhere, wherever you want to put her. But when it comes down to your number 1 and number 2, like when you look at Valentina Shevchenko and Weili, I have to put Valentina over her again because the body of work, just the body of work, period. I mean, people are going to say, oh, she lost her belt and she just got it back. But still, that 7 title defense reign still stood for something, right? It still stood for something, all right? She went in there, defended 7 times, held her own in every single fight, all the way up until she lost to Alexa Grasso. She was still, winning that fight. She lost. She comes back to fight Grasso again. Of course, it's a draw, but some people argue she won the fight. But in that fight, she still looked like somebody that was a dangerous threat and still a pound-for-pound top fighter, right? Then she comes back, revamps it, revamps herself, takes it back to basics, and wins the 3rd fight. Okay, so now she wins a belt again. Now she's lined up to fight whoever again. She's back in that position. So when you look at Valentina, and again, if you want to take it further back, you got to look at Valentina's skill sets. You got to look at what she's done in flyweight, but also how she's matched up against bantamweights. She's a fighter that I look at and say, okay, she could potentially be bantamweight champion one day, right? Her skill sets and the way she matches up against other fighters, you could match her up against anybody, right? You could match her up against whoever the top fighter is at bantamweight because of how she fights and how she's dominated, right? There's some other fighters, of course, when you dominate one division, you say, okay, that person is pound for pound one of the best fighters because they're dominant, but you can't really match them up across the board. You really can't. It's just like in boxing, like when it comes to heavyweights, it's really hard to put a heavyweight in a pound for pound ranking like back in the day when you could see somebody like Pernell Whitaker, Roy Jones Jr., James Toney. They were able to move up and down in weight and fight different styles because of their body types, and their skill sets, their defensive skill sets and things like that. But when you look at somebody like Weili, the question's still out there. The question's still out there, like, can she beat somebody at flyweight? And the answer to me is like, I don't think so right now. I think she could dominate strawweight. I think she could get up to 5-6 title defenses right now. Like, even though I consider Virna Jandiroba a threat, I think she could beat her. I think she could beat Dern. I think she could beat a lot of strawweights. But if you match her up against some of the flyweights, I don't think she could beat Manon. I don't think she could beat Natalia Silva. She probably have a hard time beating Grasso. I could see her maybe winning against Grasso. That's the only one. I couldn't see her beating Valentina, though. So when you look at pound for pound, for me, I'm looking at, and this is my standards. This is my standards. That's why I'm saying when I'm answering this question, I'm going by my standards. I'm going by like body of work. I'm going by the skill sets, how you match up against other weight classes across the board, and having to answer those questions like have they fought at other weight classes? How would they do if they fought at other weight classes because of what they developed over the years? Zhang Weili, to me, before she could move up, she still would have to develop like certain types of defensive skills and prove that she is like physically strong off the charts to, another level where I'd say, okay, she could go in there and just like body Manon Fiorot or something like that. But we still have to see how Valentina handles that strength of Manon. You know what I mean? So it's just those little questions like that. So for me, I still think Valentina Shevchenko is number one pound for pound. And again, going back, I didn't want to miss this too. It's also how she won the belt back. Because even if you want to go all the way back to like Zhang Weili losing to Rose, she lost the first fight pretty shockingly, right? And we see how Valentina, she lost the first fight to Grasso. She was still winning that fight. It wasn't until she made that reckless mistake. See, Zhang Weili got caught early and finished just like that. But Valentina was still fighting tooth and nail for her belt, right? And then when you go into the second fight, Valentina fought to a draw, almost got submitted in that last round, but you could still argue she was winning that fight or she won that fight. Whereas Rose versus Zhang Weili, the second fight, we could argue that Zhang Weili won that fight too, but there were still some moments in there where like, oh, okay, she's still having trouble with wrestlers here. Oh, okay, she's still having trouble with this type of striker. But you saw Valentina, her skills were in the fight. You could still see the skills were still there giving Grasso problems. She was just messing up in these little points where she just had to go back and fine tune herself and throw some things out and then just show, okay, boom, I'm the better wrestler right here. I can improve my striking right here. And then in the third fight, you saw her take over. Maybe Zhang Weili could do that against Rose next time around. We don't know. But as of right now, I mean, we just seen Valentina do so many more things. Her body of work is so much more solid right now. But again, like I said, Zhang Weili's not that far behind. The thing is, y'all just got to understand, like I said, look, not too long ago, people were putting her down. And that's the difference between me. Like a lot of people were putting Zhang Weili down even when she lost. But me, I still stood by her at that and said, look, she will come back. Some of y'all said she was done. Some of y'all didn't even think she could come back at this point. But now y'all are calling her the GOAT too. That's a different talk, though. We just talking pound for pound here. But when you talk GOAT, I don't even do that anymore. I still say Amanda's like one of the greatest fighters, up there now, and she's one of the pioneers, but I don't even do the GOAT talk right now. It's still too early for that. But if y'all want to try to say the greatest of all time is Zhang Weili, y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. Like, she is not the greatest of all time. Because just a few years ago, y'all were saying she won't come back, or y'all were making excuses, laughing at her for saying, oh, the fans distracted her. Oh, she ain't no good fighter. Now, all of a sudden, when she evolves just a little bit, she's the greatest of all time. Come on now. Nah, not at all. She is definitely a much improved fighter, and she's one of the best today. But there's still a long way for her to go to cement herself as the greatest, like up there with Amanda, or, even like what Chris Cyborg has done. Like, those fighters have already stamped it with, the body of work, the accomplishments, and so on. So I understand why Zhang Weili wants this fight with Valentina, because it cements her legacy. But as of right now, yeah, I have Valentina as that one, is still the pound for pound fighter. For all those reasons, like I said, the body of work leading up till now, how she got her belt back, even how she lost and how she got it back, still stands for something, Oh, yeah, and another thing I will add too is how you come back from adversity. Granted, Weili has really come back from the Rose fights, the back-to-back Rose fights that she lost. She has come back. I give her full credit for that. She's a different fighter. But also how you come back and beat that person, right? See, I know that Zhang Weili didn't get the third fight with Rose. She's lost two, and it's kind of just like gone from here. But that just shows you Valentina, how she was overcoming adversity. She lost one, the next one was a draw, and then she won it back, all right? So you see there that Valentina was never in the same situation where she was just completely outgunned by Grasso. She was still winning her fight. So that's another little thing I use to measure who's better pound for pound between the two. You know, Valentina was able to come back and beat the person that beat her. That's something that Zhang Weili still hasn't been able to do. You know, she's got 3 title defenses, but she couldn't beat that person that beat her, or even fight her to a draw. Whereas Valentina Shevchenko dominated her division, lost the belt, but still got some get back and beat that person that did beat her, right? So she showed you that, hey, down the list, checklist again, across the board, she can fight in 2 different weight classes. She can dominate a weight class, and then she can come back and still beat the person that beats her. So just saying, that's another way I'll kind of look at it too on my, metrics of who's the best pound for pound. So yeah, that's how I stand on it right now. That's how I just stand on it. I think Zhang Weili has done well, as far as defending her belt 3 times. Since then, she beat Joanna. She won it from Carla. Now she defended her belt 3 times. She's won 5 in a row. But just 5 wins in a row doesn't make you pound for pound number 1 when you are standing next to a Valentina. You know what I mean? Like, Valentina, I know the last one was win, loss, draw, but still, there was so much more that she was already doing. So that's just my take on it. Zhang Weili is getting up there. Zhang Weili's going to have to do something big by beating Valentina. I don't know if that fight will happen, or she'll have to do something by breaking Joanna's record, as far as defenses. But that's where I stand with it. I use the same metrics like I use when it comes to boxing as pound for pound. So, guys, what do y'all think in the comment section? Let me know. Combo Breaker 99. Hit the like, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.